I always thought Mean Girls was redundant.
There's nice ones. I swear there are nice ones. But I mean, every child is monstrous at some point in their lives, or at least they had the potential to be. And it's all about if you meet the wrong people, which in The False Friend is definitely what happens. I mean, Celia, you know, she is a monster for this period of her life that she goes back to consider. But for the most part, she's a good person. She's a very, very decent adult. And for most of her childhood, she was decent too. But when she meets Juna, they just push each other's wrong buttons, and they bring out the worst in each other.
The plot of this book is the exact opposite of what I thought it would be.
Oh, good.
As I thought it would be, I thought it was, you know, a girl remembers her friend falling down a hole and then later recovers the memory of her being abducted. But this is, she remembers her friend being abducted until one day as an adult she has this flash and no, she wasn't abducted, she fell down a hole.
Right.
Where did this topsy-turvy thing come from?
Well, I mean, more to my mind, she doesn't remember anything. She's managed to block this friend out entirely until, as an adult, this memory comes back to her when she sees this car, which kind of triggers things for her. And it actually came to me in a very much more trivial way in an experience I had maybe 10 or 12 years ago. I suddenly remembered having been mean to a girl that I'd forgotten I'd been mean to. I'd thrown a pair of scissors at her, and I remembered this suddenly as an adult. And I was kind of disproportionately upset and shocked by this. Partly, I think, because I'm just such not a violent person that the fact that I was once capable of any sort of violent act just deeply surprised me and kind of disturbed me, and just got me wondering, what are the things that we do as children that unconsciously or consciously shape the adults that we become? And I think, I mean, I didn't articulate it in those ways when this memory returned to me, but I think that's what my back brain was considering over the years that eventually turned into the premise of this book, where it explores it in much larger and more ominous ways than the silly memory that I had that came back to me.
She could have just had this memory and then gone, well, that's ridiculous because the area was searched and there's no way it could have happened that way, and just dismissed it. But she instead tackles it and goes back home.
Yeah. Well, again, part of it has to do with the fact that, I mean, we all have fuzzy patches when we think about our childhoods. Like, you know, I really don't have any memories of my childhood until I get to maybe second or third grade, except maybe in little teeny snapshots of something that I think might have happened to me in kindergarten. And then the older we get, as we look back on our memories, maybe we'll have an incident that we remember, or maybe even a conversation. And so this was just one of the parts of her childhood that she had managed pretty much to completely forget about for a really long time. So when it comes back to her, she's not reasoning. She's not using reason. She's actually not thinking about, oh, they searched the area, because it's all still kind of coming back to her incrementally. The thing that comes back first and most vibrantly is this memory of seeing her friend fall, and then of going to her friends back at the road and saying, making up this story about her friend having gotten to a car. And that is her overriding memory, and it feels very, very real and very true. And she can't just let that slide. She has to return home because she feels incredibly guilty for having, you know, participated in what it seems to her in having done something that led to another girl's death, and lying about it and having her lie believed, and she can't let that stand. She's a good, decent person, and so of course she returns to her hometown. It's really only after she begins tracking these people down, her childhood friends who are now adults, whom she really doesn't recognize. I mean, the part of this book is exploring the adults that children turn into and the ways that we do or don't resemble the people, you know, maybe we thought we'd become. And they start telling her, I mean, as the reader, I hope, goes through the story, more and more evidence accrues to suggest that Celia might have it wrong. And it's, you know, you hopefully by the end you are able to come to a conclusion one way or the other. At least that's my intent.
When she goes back, her childhood friends are sure a crime has occurred, but the perpetrator was her. She was horrible, a horrible, horrible person at that one little stage of her life.
Right.
And they have never forgiven her.
Yeah, well, the thing that she wants to forgive for something, she wants to be forgiven for something that they say she didn't do. And instead they want her to apologize for something that they say she did do, which was be a terrible bully to one of the girls in their circle of friends. There were 5 of them, and her and Juna pretty much just psychologically tortured one of the girls in their group. And that's the thing that Celia also has managed to kind of displace or block out in weird ways. I mean, and this is for me the crux of the book, the ways that our memories tend to be number one, unreliable, but also can be very self-serving. And the way that we might change our memories around without even knowing is perhaps to protect ourselves from things that if we knew about ourselves would be really difficult to face up to. And that's the reason also in my mind, when we joined Celia at the beginning of this book, her life's going okay, but she's in stasis. You know, like she's in this relationship that she can't seem to move forward with Huck, even though they both love each other. And to my mind, the reason why she can't move forward in her life is she's being kind of held back by this memory that she hasn't dealt with yet. And I think ultimately, for us to become the full people that we are to become fully actualized as people, we need to acknowledge our pasts and to deal with them and perhaps work through things that we're not happy with to then be able to move forward.
The book is The False Friend. I've been speaking with the author Myla Goldberg and The False Friend, published by Doubleday.